Stick around because we're diving into one of the most explosive political stories in Britain right now. Labour is under intense scrutiny, and the very essence of democracy could be at risk. Don't miss this. Angela Rayner has landed in the eye of a political storm, facing legal challenges over allegations that she deliberately delayed key local elections to hinder Reform UK's progress. The move has sparked outrage across the political spectrum, with opposition leaders, legal experts, and the public questioning her motives. In an emotional moment, Rayner reportedly broke down in tears, defending her decision, insisting it was necessary for local governance. But was it truly responsible leadership, or a calculated move to shield Labour from potential defeat? 99% of viewers watch without subscribing. If you enjoy our content, subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps us grow and keeps you updated. Thank you. The controversy erupted when Rayner, as Deputy Prime Minister, confirmed that elections scheduled for May in 9 crucial council areas would be postponed. These regions, East Sussex, West Sussex, Essex, Thurrock, Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Norfolk, Suffolk, and Surrey, represent over 5 million voters who will now be unable to cast their votes this year. The official justification cited restructuring from a two-tier system to unitary authorities, rendering elections impractical. However, critics see it as an overt attempt to manipulate the democratic process. Rayner defended the move, emphasizing Labour's broader push for devolution and streamlined governance. She outlined plans for 7 additional devolution areas, including Cumbria, Cheshire and Warrington, Greater Essex, Hampshire and the Solent, Norfolk and Suffolk, Sussex, Brighton, and Lancashire, with mayoral elections set for May 2026. Yet skeptics question why the restructuring conveniently aligns with Labour's electoral interests, particularly in areas where Reform UK was gaining ground. Opposition backlash was swift. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage condemned the delays as an attack on democracy, accusing Rayner of election interference. He argued that cancelling elections in these particular areas wasn't about governance, but about Labour's fear of losing control. Analysts noted that all but one of the affected councils were under Conservative control, with Reform UK polling strongly, especially in Essex and Thurrock. By postponing elections, critics claim Rayner blocked voters from expressing their dissatisfaction with the government. Conservative Shadow Housing Secretary Kevin Henry slammed Rayner's policy, arguing that it increases centralization rather than true devolution. In a heated parliamentary debate, Henry claimed the restructuring was a rebranding exercise designed to consolidate Labour's power rather than empower local councils. He suggested that instead of eliminating the two-tier system, Labour was creating a new level of strategic authorities that would operate under tighter government control. The political ramifications go beyond election delays. Polling expert and Conservative peer Lord Hayward suggested Rayner's actions blocked Reform UK's best opportunity to gain local council control. Thurrock, a longtime UKIP stronghold, was Reform UK's prime target, with polling indicating a potential breakthrough. Had elections proceeded, Reform UK might have secured its first major local government victory, significantly altering Britain's political landscape. Instead, postponing elections deprived the party of a critical chance to solidify its growing influence. Critics argue the move is undemocratic and highlights Labour's desperation to maintain power. By delaying elections, Rayner has shielded her party from potential losses, at least for now. But the long-term consequences remain uncertain as public distrust in Labour grows. Adding to the turmoil, legal experts confirm Rayner faces court charges over allegations of abuse of power. The case, expected to be highly contentious, centers on claims that she deliberately misused her authority to manipulate electoral proceedings. Sources indicate Rayner became visibly emotional during legal proceedings, breaking down in tears as she defended her actions. However, Reform UK's legal team is aggressively pushing to overturn the delays, arguing that voters' fundamental rights have been infringed. If courts rule against Rayner, the fallout could be catastrophic. She could face resignation or even criminal charges, creating a crisis for Labour at a time when public confidence in their leadership is already fragile. This scandal couldn't come at a worse time for the party. Meanwhile, the UK's political landscape is shifting dramatically. A recent survey of 2,487 British adults shows Reform UK at its highest support level ever, leading with 29%, a 2-point increase from last week. Labour follows at 25%, while Conservative support has dropped to 18%, marking a 3-point decline. The Liberal Democrats gained 2 points to reach 13%, while the Greens remain at 10%. Reform UK Chairman Zulfikar Yusuf described the poll results as huge, emphasizing this as the first time Conservative support has fallen below 20%, while Reform UK edges toward 30%. Nigel Farage is capitalizing on this momentum, making bold political predictions. Speaking to the Evening Standard, he estimated a 35 to 45% chance of becoming Prime Minister in the next general election. However, he also acknowledged that he would step aside for a younger, more capable leader if necessary. He emphasized that his leadership isn't about personal ambition, but about building a movement that represents the British people. Farage rejected claims that Reform UK is a single-issue party, arguing that its appeal lies in its broader message of national renewal. He pointed to the party's slogan, family, community, country, as a reflection of its core values, which he claims have been ignored by the political establishment. He also suggested that economic issues, rather than immigration, would dominate the next election, as Britain faces mounting financial pressures and declining quality of life. As this political drama unfolds, one thing is clear: the battle for Britain's future is far from over. The fallout from Angela Rayner's election postponement decision could have lasting consequences for Labour, the Conservatives, and the rise of Reform UK. With public frustration at an all-time high and political tides shifting rapidly, the coming months could be among the most consequential in modern British history. Will Labour's gamble pay off, or has Rayner's decision triggered a backlash that could lead to their downfall? Only time will tell. As anger over the election delays intensifies, the controversy has evolved into a broader crisis of confidence in Labour's leadership. Many fear this move sets a dangerous precedent where incumbents manipulate electoral processes to protect their power. Labour officials continue to defend their decision, but public sentiment tells a different story. Across Britain, millions feel disenfranchised and disillusioned with a political system that prioritizes party interests over democratic principles. Social media has erupted in response, with hashtags like #election-interference and #defend-democracy trending. Many see this as a betrayal of democracy and an attempt to rig the system against Reform UK. Polls in affected areas show a majority of voters believe the delays were politically motivated rather than administratively necessary. Public protests have erupted, particularly in Essex and Thurrock, where Reform UK was expected to perform strongly. Thousands have gathered accusing Rayner of stealing democracy and demanding her resignation. Some have likened Labour's actions to authoritarian tactics, where governments manipulate elections to maintain control. As the legal battle escalates, political analysts warn that Rayner could face severe consequences if the courts rule against her. Constitutional experts suggest her actions may constitute a breach of electoral law, leading to legal sanctions or even criminal charges. If found guilty, she may be forced to resign, plunging Labour into a leadership crisis. What initially seemed like a tactical advantage for Labour now appears to be a major strategic miscalculation. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are seizing the moment, framing themselves as defenders of democracy. In a rally before thousands in Manchester, Farage declared, "They are terrified of us. They know we are the voice of the people. They know that if they allow free and fair elections, their power will crumble." His words resonate deeply with disillusioned voters, fueling Reform UK's growing momentum. As Britain stands at a political crossroads, one thing remains certain: the tides of change are coming and no government can hold them back forever.